Last week, we started a conversation. We started talking about our phones. And somewhere between the notifications, the screen time reports, and the just checking one more thing moments, I think we all felt it. That little nudge, that quiet conviction. Because here's the truth. Nobody thinks that they're addicted. Nobody thinks they're distracted. We all just think that we're busy. But busy and distracted aren't the same thing. And in part one, we told a story with a big lesson. We started peeling back the layers of what constant connection is actually doing to our focus, to our relationships, and maybe even to our spiritual lives. But today we're going to go deeper because this issue isn't just screen time. It's attention. It's presence. It's who or maybe what is forming us. Our phones are brilliant tools. They help us work, connect, build, learn, laugh. I've built businesses from my phone. I've preached with notes from my phone. I've FaceTimed people that I love. Our phones are brilliant tools. They help us work. They help us connect. They help us build, learn, laugh. But if we're honest, they've also interrupted prayers. They've cut conversations short. They've filled silence that maybe was supposed to shape us. There was a time when boredom led to creativity, when waiting led to reflection, when silence made space for God. But now we reach. Now, I'm not coming at this as someone who has it all figured out. I'm coming at it as someone who just felt the pull, who's looked up from a screen and realized I just missed a moment. And that's what this is really all about. Moments. Ones that you can't get back. So in part two, we're not diagnosing a problem. We're asking better questions. What is distraction costing us? What is constant input doing to our inner life? And how do we actually take back our attention without throwing our phones into the lake? This isn't a guilt episode. It's a clarity episode. Because the enemy of a meaningful life might not be evil. It might just be endless scrolling. So pull up a chair, put your phone face down, and let's talk. Welcome to the Pulpit and Porch. I'm Tony Marr, and with me as always is my friend Robert Kell.
Hey everybody, we are so glad you're here. The Pulpit and Porch is where we kick back, put up our feet, and have real conversations about life, faith, growth, and maybe even a little sports and pop culture.
If you're looking for a perfectly polished sermon, you're probably in the wrong place.
Yeah, around here, it's more about those honest, heart-to-heart conversations, like the one you'd have on a front porch with good friends. Sometimes we stay on track, sometimes we take the scenic route.
And honestly, that's half the fun, isn't it? We dig into the highs, the lows, and all the in-betweens of living out your faith in real life. Along the way, we may pull up a few extra chairs and invite some friends onto the porch to share stories and ideas that just may change the way that you see things.
So whether you're chasing your purpose, building your faith, or just trying to live a little more fully, pull up a chair, grab some sweet tea, and join us. This is the Pulpit and Porch. We got a seat waiting for you.
You have an iPhone, right?
I do.
Every Sunday morning, you get that notification that tells you what your screen time report was.
It does.
I've never really paid attention to that until you started that
did the
series on
back
that.
in.
And then
Yeah.
this week it popped up. And what was your time? What was your average daily time
I don't
this
even
week?
remember. I get to, so I know on my iPad it was way lower than I expected. It was in the 2 hour and something a day, but it's my computer. Like I don't actually, like it's the only computer I really use is my iPad. So it's where I type my sermons and I check and type stuff for all what we do here and those types of things. And so it's really my work device. And so it was way less than I thought. My phone was, I think, over 3, but I do a lot more. Like I have all these text groups that I'm in. I ain't going to lie. Like I've done a bunch of stupid stuff as well, but yeah.
Mine was devastating for me
Uh-oh.
because I don't feel like I'm on my phone a lot. I don't feel like I'm one of those that's constantly on my phone and scrolling.
So I'm probably pushing 6
devastating.
hours a day between both devices.
Well, I don't use we talked about the iPad today. I hadn't been out of the truck in 6 days or whatever. So I don't use an iPad at all, but I use my computer a lot.
Yeah.
And that's not factored into this report.
It doesn't factor, okay.
Just my average daily for last week on my phone was 4 hours and 17 minutes a day.
Wow.
Now here's the thing that I was thinking through. Every morning, 6 a.m., an hour and a half workout that I have it going that It's running when I'm on my treadmill. I'm doing the Nike Plus Run app that is tracking my workout, and I have my timers going for my rest and my sets and all of that. So that's an hour and a half that I'm not really doing anything, but it's on and it's going. I don't know if it counts that.
It does.
We had 4 basketball games last week that it was recording video on the whole time.
Definitely counts that.
So that's got to count. When I'm listening to podcasts, if I'm in the
Definitely
car,
counts.
it's either doing Sirius XM is streaming from it or my car. So anytime I'm driving, my phone is going. So I started trying to justify it a little bit by all of these things, but still 4 hours and 17 minutes a day.
Yeah, but I think the thing that we have to look at is like you talked about. So for me on the way here, it's a almost 30-minute drive. And so I listen to podcasts. I listen to Shane and Shane has a daily Monday through Friday. They do a daily worship thing where they just sing and they talk through a worship song. And it's a really cool thing you can kind of sign up for. They text it to you. It's awesome. But all of that stuff counts towards time. And so I listen to stuff all the way here. I'll either be on my phone or listening to things all the way out as I head back towards towards civilization.
So if your screen is off but something is going, is it counting your time?
Yeah, I think it's still running.
That makes me feel a little bit better because, like I said, I've got podcasts going, music going all the time.
So Mel does, and I don't know why. It's not like we don't have other devices that can do this, but she runs a noisemaker and she feels like she needs to do it from her phone. And so she does it from her phone and it counts. It runs all night long. And so
she's like 8 hours a day.
Oh,
average.
Probably more than that. She's probably 12 hours a day by the time, because, between texts and phone calls and all the things that she does, it definitely works in that. So speaking of using phones for things that should not count against our time, this past Friday brought a really, really special day into our whole life, and especially for you.
What would that be?
It was the opening day of spring baseball.
It was for most teams. The Dodgers' first game was on Saturday.
They aren't all of baseball. They are actually.
They kind of are.
They have to have 29 other teams to embarrass and out purchase.
I'm kind of, and this episode isn't going to air for several weeks. So,
yeah. So it's actually would have been several weeks
as of right now. And man, I've almost said this a couple of times in conversations with people, and I've stopped because I don't want to. And I'm going to knock on wood really quick. The Dodgers have not lost a game yet in spring training. They are 5-0, and they have won by an average of 9 runs a game.
Yeah, I don't know that spring training is the
greatest. It's spring training. But still, if we can continue this,
there's people that are struggling.
Positive 9-run differential throughout the whole season. I think it's going to be a good year for the Dodgers.
There's people that are struggling that call me up and go, "Hey man, you still think you got a little bit in your arm?" And they'll let me come out and throw an inning. I mean, there's teams that are like, "Hey, you think?" And so they're bringing out 14-year-olds and going, let's see what they can do. And you got 60-year-olds. Like, does Nolan still have one more inning left in that arm? Can he do 1 inning a week?
I don't care what your persuasion is on sports, on baseball. The world is a better place when baseball is happening.
I don't know that I can say just baseball, but I do love sports and I enjoy watching things.
And I love sports. I love football. I love basketball. I absolutely loved the Olympics. There's just something romantic about baseball.
Stop quoting the Brad Pitt.
It's a beautiful, beautiful game. It is a gorgeous game.
So connecting sports and the internet stuff we're talking about. One of my kids asked me yesterday, and he said, I sent this to one of my brothers, and I forgot to send it to you. And
like one of his real brothers, or like one of his my bro,
real brother, one of the other people in the house.
Okay,
And so, are you familiar much with YouTube golf? I mean, I know you know that there is golf on YouTube, but are you familiar? Like, if I started listing,
Like,
off,
is it a league, a YouTube golf league?
No, it's really like people who who found a way to make a living recording themselves playing golf on YouTube, and people watch it and they get paid. So
so like influencers.
Yeah.
Social
Really,
media
they are.
influencers.
They're really good golfers, most of them, and they're influencers. Oh my goodness, I just went blank on the guys that do all the trick shots. I can see all their faces.
Dude Perfect.
Yes, think Dude Perfect.
But on golf.
Except with golf, and they aren't doing trick shots. Sometimes they do trick shots, but they're playing real golf.
So is it kind of like what's the people who stream themselves playing video games and make millions of dollars?
It's really a lot like that.
Except they're just playing golf.
Yeah, and so they have.
It's like they're wearing GoPros when they go hit the links.
They actually have people who video and they just take a risk. And all these people are like, hey, early on, they all bought in and they started doing something. As people started to watch, they got a couple of sponsors. So probably the most famous one that's out there is Good Golf. And there's about 8 guys that started that. I think one of the.
Can you say that again?
Good Golf.
One more to the last word.
Golf.
Golf. Like the quarterback for
I'm
the
a
Detroit
redneck
Lions?
from the South. You use Nevada, man. It's all what it is. No one.
There
else,
is an L in there.
No, good golf. It's golf. It's like it's just what it is. And so nobody cares but you because you're not from these here parts. And so there's a guy, Grant Horvat, who started with Good and then launched his own channel. Guy's huge. He
had a church split.
Yeah, they did. No, actually, the best my understanding, Good was about to get a sponsorship, and he already had a sponsorship with a competing company, so he wasn't going to hold them back. It's actually a really high character thing. He started his own channel. He already had a lot of traction. He's probably a little better golfer than a lot of them. So Grant right now is doing videos where he goes out and plays 18 holes against the top guys in the PGA and Live Tour. And so he'll play, like right now we're watching one, I think it's a little bit old, but we're watching a video where he plays Scotty Scheffler, but he starts 5 under. So he starts 5 strokes ahead. And so he's played Scotty, Rory, John Rahm. All these different, just great golfers. And he's 4-4. So he's a pretty good golfer in his own. So here's the question my son asked. If you could be Grant Horvat, YouTube golfer, you don't ever play tournaments, you just play on YouTube and that's all you do, or you could be Scotty Scheffler, who is the #1 player in the world on the PGA Tour, which would you be? And here was what was like, I knew when he asked what he would be, and so I feel like I know what you would say. But if you could be, think about this, you could be Dude Perfect or you could be Kobe.
Yeah.
Like, who would you be?
So we play these games all the time.
Yeah. Would you rather
my
kind of
kids,
stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of our favorite ones that we've asked, and me and my dad and brother did it, and now I do it. Yeah. All right. So we just had a technical difficulty, and I think that maybe it was a good thing because I had told a classified story, a government classified story, that then we looked over, and you were getting ready to give some commentary and some thoughts to my government classified story. But
maybe
we were
our
talking
devices are listening.
It could be, and it just cut us off. The government said you're not going to talk about
You're
that
not going to
anymore.
tell that story.
I'm not going to retell it. And so
we'll see. We'll see if it makes if we had the recording and we had enough of it. If it goes on YouTube, do they shut that down and show up at your door? So here's what I was about to say. I use social media. There's no doubt. We
were talking about aliens.
Yeah, aliens.
Yeah.
And so I don't deny that. And the vast majority of my social media time is 2 things. It is Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace. Just what can I find?
I'm addicted.
That I think is fun.
I have a problem. I'm in a support group. 2 of them actually.
What's that?
One of them, all we do is shop on Facebook's Marketplace together.
Yeah. When you admit you have a problem to a group of people, they're like, "Oh, your problem's not a problem." That's not fixing anything.
Okay.
The other thing is I watch reels. And so, like, maybe I need to watch better reels and things like that.
Can I confess something to you really quick? I don't know what reels are. I don't understand what reels are. I mean, I've heard of reels. My wife and my children have tried to explain to me reels. I don't understand the difference between reels and a post. I don't get it.
Reels are a short video that somebody's talking about something. Like, you'll see sermon clips, or you'll see leaders and people that you really. So the thing I love is people I follow that I highly value. I'll see little short clips of their sermon, or they're a leadership coach, and they'll talk about things inside of technology or AI, or how to develop a good team and those types of things. And so you see all these things, but in that, the algorithm is always going, but I see you when you're scrolling through your friends, you slow down on this. So I'm going to throw this in here to see if you watch it. And so sometimes you watch a video about cake decorating, and then you spend the next 3 months trying to get cake decorating out of your algorithm. And so I know I have had no video. Apparently you were talking about President Obama. Like we were talking about President Trump recently said some things about, if I could release the confidential files, it would make you really nervous about what goes on in our world. And I thought, my algorithm isn't like, I didn't know this stuff was even going on.
I'm also convinced that Shohei Ohtani is an alien. He is not from this planet.
The podcast I was listening to was actually talking about Wembanyama. They're like 7'8", plays basketball like a 5'11" guard. That guy is not from here. And so regardless of whether Elon Musk has been having huge conversations about it recently, and he's like, there is no alien life, because if there was, I would be the person that knows about it. And I thought, what a crazy statement. But like the thing I was reminded of is this, and we're going to dive back into what we're doing, is our algorithms don't shape us, they reveal us. And I don't remember if we said that in the first episode or not, but if you don't like your algorithm, your problem isn't with Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all those things. Your problem's with you, because it continues to show videos that you are watching. Yeah. And I thought, and I said last week, and if I had it, I would have brought it. And I brought it back this week when I was doing it, the Ancient Generation. And I was just thumbing back through this, looking at some things, and I'll have to put on my old man glasses because I will not be able to read this without it. But like I saw this quote, and I just thought, man, this is kind of a great kind of transition back in to continue this conversation. If you grab the book, it starts at the bottom of page 124. But it says
that's in the hardback.
Yeah, it is the hardback version of it. Yeah, as the CEO of Netflix put it on an earnings call with investors when asked about Netflix competitors, he said, think about it. When you watch a show from Netflix and you get addicted to it, you stay up late at night. We're competing with sleep on the margin.
Wow.
So when he's talking about investors, he's talking to his investors and what they're doing.
Wow. Can you say that? Can you read that one more time?
I absolutely can. I'm just going to read the part. And so he's on an earnings call with his people. You actually hadn't heard that quote. I had told you a little bit about it, and I didn't say it quite that well, but you knew I was going to read it, but you didn't know the quote. So when he's talking to investors on an earnings call, the CEO of Netflix says, think about it. When you watch a show from Netflix and you get addicted to it, you stay up late at night. We're competing with sleep on the margin.
Wow.
And I think that's the thing. It's why we wanted to do this series that we did at the first of the year for the church. It's why we weren't the only one. There were a half dozen other churches that within the last 2 to 2.5 months have done a series on this exact same topic, this exact same conversation, referencing the exact same books that I read and I researched and I worked through, because what people are seeing is that, yes, our algorithms may reveal us, but these companies, whether that is a social media platform, whether it is a streaming service, regardless of what it is, it comes to these devices, our computer, our phone, our tablets, and it is absolutely competing for our sleep. And that's my concern in the subtitle for the Ancient Generation is how the great rewiring of childhood is causing an epidemic of mental illness. And in this, Jonathan Haidt is a follower. He's a believer, and he actually goes through some scripture things in around chapter 8. He works through the problem, and then he starts to kind of unpack some things that parents can do. And he believes the scripture is a part of helping navigate some of that. And I would agree, and I know you would as well. I mean, I think there's some wisdom that all wisdom helps when it comes from scripture. But like, this is my problem, Tony. And this, when we got into all this, and I want to use that to look back at your story. Like you ended last week for us talking about this really intimate moment for you. And one, thanks for sharing that, because like, it's when we talk about things on here, like some people may go, oh, they're just telling stories. But when some of these things are real life, it's actually our real life. It's not just we're sitting around going, hey, how do we make this more interesting? We do want to make it more interesting, but it's our stories, our stuff, our life. So thanks for sharing that. But you're talking about phones and TV and all of these things that are grabbing attention. And yet at the same time, you saw, man, I missed a moment. And when you think about Netflix, is like, if they're fighting for your sleep, they're definitely fighting for your attention over your family. Like, how does that make you process your story a little bit differently and unpack your story a little more too? I'd love to hear more about some of those things, what you're thinking and stuff.
Yeah, I think that quote that you just shared is really scary, but it's reality. I mean, I think we've all been to the place where let's stay up for just one more episode.
Oh my
let's
goodness,
figure out
yeah.
what we're going to get out of this. I had the realization when that event happened a couple of weekends ago that I told the story about, of just how much life we're missing because we're just distracted. And even though you're in the same room with the people that you love, you're not connecting with them in any way. I have the world's worst attention span that I cannot multitask at all. I don't know why. There's something neurologically imbalanced with me that I cannot multitask. And so if I am watching something on television or reading a book or something and someone else trying to have a conversation with me, I can't process both. And so I get really frustrated because that's the way that I am, where if we're watching a TV show and I'll get a text message, and so I'll pick up my phone just to read the text message, I then have to rewind the TV show because I can't read the text message and keep up with what's happening on the TV show. And so I'll miss the dialogue on there.
And that's the interesting thing, to just interrupt. I think we talked about this in the last episode. Even Matt Damon and Ben Affleck with the new movie that they had that just came out, there's conversations around, and I've heard this from multiple other creatives and pretty famous movie people, that Netflix in particular is saying you have to tell in your dialogue multiple times what's going on because people aren't watching your story. They're scrolling through your story.
Yeah.
And and they will miss things if they can't shop and listen, if they can't text and listen. And so it's super interesting kind of in that space.
Yeah. And so when we sit down to watch a TV show or watch a movie together, have a family movie night, and I'll look around and my wife is on her phone playing a game while we're watching the movie. My kids are all sitting there on their phone with their headphones in. We were watching a basketball game the other night, and my son was sitting there on his phone with the TV playing the Lakers game. And there was an incredible play. And I was frustrated because we're supposed to be watching the game and you're doing something on your phone. And so I said, did you see that play? And he's like, yeah, that was awesome. Like, you didn't see it. You're staring here. But somehow his brain has the capability to where he's able to be watching the game out of his peripheral, watching something on his phone. And my wife is the same way. We've started watching a new show that came at the recommendation of my counselor, my therapist, that he said, I really think you need to watch this show. And when we do Porch Picks later on, I'll dive into that some, and you'll be like, wow, you are really messed up that your therapist said this is the show that you need to watch.
Is it shrinking?
It is shrinking. Yes, it is. Good call.
Well, I just figured a show about a counselor recommending a show. I bet it's about counseling. And so what a crazy cast that show is.
Yeah, we've done I think 2 episodes. I think we started the first 2 episodes yesterday. But we're sitting there watching this show And my wife is laying right next to me, and she's playing a game like Candy Crush or something on her phone. And I'm like, you're missing stuff on the show. And so I'm asking her stuff. She knows more, that she caught more than I did. And I'm the one sitting there. But my brain doesn't process that way. And so there are people that can multitask in incredible ways. I'm not one of those. And so if there's something else that is distracting my attention, just like the story I told last week, I was on my phone. My daughter was trying to talk to me, and I couldn't even hear her talking to me. My brain didn't even process the fact that my daughter was trying to have a conversation. She's home from college. I don't see her that often. And I didn't even recognize that she was talking to me. I would give anything to sit down and have a conversation with my 19-year-old daughter. And yet I almost missed a moment. I was thankfully able to salvage it, but almost completely missed a moment. And there have been multiple times that that's happened. And my wife has said, Tony, Camden's talking to you. He's asking you a question. He's as close to me as you are right now. And I just don't hear him because I'm so distracted.
I think that one of the things that's interesting in that is the whole multitask thing really seemed to kind of catch some traction around Oprah back in the 80s, late 80s, heading into was she around the late 80s, getting into the 90s, I think. And there was a lot of conversation around multitasking and some things there. And the thing that came out of those conversations years later was the great myth of multitasking. And really none of us do that well. There's no way you're as attentive in catching things that you would catch and do if you were really paying attention. We've seen the movie Mercy with Chris Pratt. I don't know if you're aware of what that is or not.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Super high level just view. He's a police officer who supports this new type of trial system where basically you're put on trial with an AI as the judge, and you have 90 minutes to convince them you're not. So the highest level of guilt you can face is 98%. The lowest you can face is 92. Or if you can get it below 92, you're considered innocent. So you can be 91.9% guilty. And if you can convince them that you're not, that you're below 92, you go free. That might actually be a little bit of a spoiler alert. But but you have access, and it says every person's phone, every camera, every ring, every backyard cam, every computer, every car, everything is connected. You have to connect it to the cloud, and the AI judge will go through and search all of these things at your request, but you have to ask the questions and work through it. And the literal starting point is you are presumed guilty until you can find innocence. And I think that's the thing about this whole deal is we are so shaped by this AI crazy, crazy world. If you take and you leave your phone, you go out and you just leave your phones at home for a day and don't have your phone. He said, it's probably going to actually take 3 days. And he said, but if you just get away and you lay your phone down, he said, the first day you're going to have some withdrawals because when you have an addiction, you have withdrawals.
Yeah.
He said, the second day you're going to start to find a little bit of a rhythm. And he said, the third day you're going to connect at a level that you haven't connected at in years. It just puts your phone down and walk away from it. Nobody can get in touch with you, just you, and you're focused entirely on your significant other. He said it will change everything in your life. So to this question, if your phone disappeared for 48 hours, you and I kind of go, look, we use our phones. We've not denied that. We've talked about it. We kind of go, we wish our phones would disappear for 48 hours and our family still be able to get in touch with us if they needed us and things like that. What do you think would surface? What is your phone keeping you from facing?
Yeah, I think so. It just a lot of probably masking insecurities restlessness, just that, we've talked about this a couple of times before, that I don't like quiet. I don't like stillness. And so I think it's an occupational thing where it's filling space for me that maybe keeping me from the realization that I don't like the pace at which I'm operating. And so if I can just continue to fill my void, my space with something that the distraction is going to keep me from being introspective about life and about what the world is coming at me with.
Yeah,
it literally is a distraction. It's a distraction from the reality that we're living in, that I'm living in.
Just a little bit of a confession. I typically, and I've said this before, I have 2 games on my phone. One of them, my phone will delete apps that don't get used. One of them actually would have to be re-downloaded to play.
Yeah.
Occasionally, and I think I said this, like over all the snow we had a few weeks ago, I will download something. I tell you, like the last week of basketball that we had wore me out. We had 4 games in 5 days. 3 of those 4 were a minimum of an hour and 15 minutes from my door. Yeah. They were further for you. Yeah. Of course, games are late in the afternoon, and so you're getting home. Like one night, I think we got home at like 11:15 or something like that. And so it's just late.
And they were emotional games.
They were.
You factor in. They were very emotionally draining games. I think they were more emotionally draining than physically draining for me.
Yeah, and then and then like you're driving these back roads, getting there. Like the first game, the first game of the week's pretty much all interstate. It was pretty simple, and that was actually driving kind of back to where my dad was from. So I've driven those roads a million times. But like the other 2 games, even though I had been to these places before, like I just forget. Late at night, driving like curvy roads. Like Colby and I joked with going to the one place that like if he rolls down the window and the front window, he can touch the back of the van. Like as we go around the curves are so tight, the vehicle has to bend to get around it, heading up these mountains and stuff. But like I've just been exhausted and so tired. And I've just like I told Mel this morning, I said I gotta figure this out. I don't know if I need more caffeine. I don't know if I need more rest. I don't know if I need to figure out a health thing. But this week, I love those silly games where you like move the liquid from one bottle to another to make the color, like just like brainless thinking games where you have a little bit of strategy, but you're just basically going, how do I move these liquids around to match all the colors and the thing and this kind of stuff. I love random games like that are just those. And I found myself over the last couple of days having things in my heart that I wanted to do. Not stuff that was necessary, but stuff that was opportunity that I wanted to step into. And I would just find myself in the afternoon just downloading one of those games and just sitting. And then I would delete it off and I'd be like, I'm tired or I'm this. And instead of like, maybe if I'm that tired, I should rest instead of taking 45 minutes and moving colors around on a screen. But that's the thing for me is that like, I think that what it reveals for me is like the need to just try. And I think it's kind of what you were saying, to distract me from like what's potentially there because I feel like that's what's going to heal the moment. Like, I just need to rest for a few minutes. And so at 6 o'clock at night, I'll start playing a game. And then 2 hours later, it's like you say, you kind of look around and go, where's my family? What's going on? What's everybody doing and stuff?
I had a doctor's appointment yesterday and I got checked in, sat down in the waiting room to wait to be called. And I'd showed up quite a bit early for my appointment. And immediately, as soon as I sat down, I reached in my pocket for my phone. And I was going to pull out and scroll Bleacher Report or USA Today or whatever it was. And I just stopped and I said, you know what, don't do this. I was pretty convicted over my 4 hours and 17 minutes. So don't do that. And so I just put my phone back in my pocket and I just sat there and looked around the room and watched that every single person in the room was on their phone. Mm-hmm. And at first I was like, how sad is this? And then I thought, 20 years ago, it was the same thing, except every waiting room had magazines.
Yep.
And you would rush to see if you could be the first one to get the Sports Illustrated before someone else got it. But I even watched as older couples came in, couples that were way, way older than you and I. And one couple came in and the husband sat down and fell asleep immediately in the chair. But the woman, I'm guessing mid to late 80s probably, sat down, pulled her phone out of her purse and started scrolling on her phone. And I just sat there now for about probably a good 20, 25 minutes waiting on my name to be called back and just observing people. And every once in a while, someone would look up and I'd make eye contact with them. And it made them uncomfortable that, why are you staring at me? Why are you looking at me? And I would smile and they would quickly avert their eyes away from me. Like, what happened to the times of sitting and having a conversation with a stranger, sharing a story, hearing someone else's story? They're gone. There's no connection anymore because all of our connection is taking place on these devices with people that are strangers that we're never going to have a real conversation with. And I think that we're really missing an interpersonal part of humanity.
Yeah.
It is quickly disappearing.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too, is that life is so busy. I've read it before, and I've mentioned The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer, and I'm rereading that with a group of guys, and so we read, it's literally like 4 pages a day, but then we text about those pages and we talk through it. And in the first pages, I think it was Dallas that asked John Ortberg, what is the greatest hang up? What's the greatest detractor? What's the thing that's stopping your spiritual development? Like, what is the thing? And Dallas Willard believes that hurry is that, and I don't know. I mean, like they're working out of Matthew 11:28-30 with the verses and things like that. And so, yoke is easy, burdens light, all these moments. And I'm just like, I don't know that.
By the way, thanks for throwing me under the bus.
I did not throw you
on Sunday.
Literally under a bus. I threw you adjacently to a bus that you will eventually throw yourself under. But you'll roll under it. Maybe the momentum will carry you under it eventually. But
I just let it hit me.
It's so fun. Just drag you a little bit. I just think about like this whole thing is that like I think there's some redeemable stuff inside of this, and we have these conversations. We could talk about a million things that throughout years that we used to do one way, that now we do another, and there's probably been a dozen changes in the way that comes. My conversation I always say is the tractor. I mean, used to, they were using their hands, then they started using animals, then a tractor came along, and now everyone uses tractors. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who don't, but like the 95% of the world or more.
Even the Amish use tractors now.
And so maybe there are no one that doesn't use tractors now.
And we can say that because the Amish aren't listening to our podcast.
Possibly not. And so
unless they're listening to it while they're on their tractor.
Yeah, we're out there on the airwaves, busting out on the AM radio,
Pennsylvania,
AM radio. And so I think that's the whole thing, is like stuff is always transitioning, but like I believe like these devices, man, I'm just not convinced they're the best thing. And when we talk about AI and the technology that continues to evolve, it just concerns me. Do you ever remove social media from your phone?
I don't do a lot on social media.
Yeah, you're probably not the best like person. That would be more me. But
yeah, I really don't do a lot. Trying to do a little bit more just from the standpoint of marketing and growth for my different businesses. But even at that, I'm failing miserably at that. I'll do really well for a few weeks. If you follow the Pulpit and Porch on Facebook and Instagram, you're like, man, you were posting every single day for about a month, and I haven't done it in probably 3 weeks now. I don't do a lot with that. I don't know how to open up Instagram. I've never been on TikTok in my life. I've not done a thing with that. I get on Facebook's marketplace all the time. I love Facebook's marketplace. My algorithm of the videos that show up, and the ads that show up, is all sports cards and sports stuff and workout stuff and then leadership stuff. So I don't really get down rabbit holes of those things. I guess my real social media, if you would call it social media, is Bleacher Report. I spend way too much time on Bleacher Report, and I'm not sure if that would be considered a social media. Probably not. It's more a news outlet.
Well, I think the vast majority of people probably view them on social media platforms. You still go to their website.
The app, the Bleacher Report app.
Yeah, and I think most people would probably view them through social media pages because you can see the same stuff and it just pops up one reel at a time, one thing at a time. And so, but yeah, no, I think it's probably a hybrid of a couple of things. A year or so ago, I removed social media from my phone, and so I did not have it on my phone for like a month, and it drastically changed because I still accessed it on my iPad and things, but I don't have my iPad with me all the time. My phone's always with me. So when I would sit down, it's just like I have nothing to do. I have nothing to dive into, nothing to look at. And so I'd be like, I'm going to read a book, or I'll listen to this, or maybe I'll just sit here and be quiet. And I think that silence has been something that's really been helpful to me. I mean, I think we've talked about some of these thoughts and ideas, but it was. I'm trying to think who said this. I could probably dig through my notes and find it, but someone said, this was actually Seth Godin. You don't work for your phones, or your phones don't work for you. You work for your phones.
Yeah.
And so, like, I guess, do you agree with that statement? And again, you might be an anomaly because you live in a world where either A, you convinced yourself years ago you're not a multitasker, and so you don't try and multitask. You kind of know, kind of Jim Elliott, wherever you are, be all there. Like when you're in, and that can be, you can be in the presence of a lot of people, but if you get on your phone, everyone else is, Roy Hobbs, clear the mechanism type of situation. They're not around anymore. And so, I mean, what do you think about that?
I do find myself reaching for my phone during a commercial break. I do find myself reaching for my phone at a stoplight and checking to see, did I miss anything? It's not to scroll social media or anything like that. It's more to check and see, did I get an email that I was waiting on? Did I hear back from this person that I texted before? And I don't like that because I feel like if my default is to reach for this device, if when silence hits, when the thing that is occupying my mind, I'm just trying to replace it with something else.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem. I think that's not a healthy place to be. If every time my phone vibrates or dings, I don't keep mine on silent because I'm afraid I'll miss something. Like my wife, I think you're the same way. Your phone's on silent almost all the time.
All the time.
Mine's never, because I have things that are really important that, at least I think they're important.
What if Kobe gets traded? I mean, what if something happens with the Lakers and Bleacher Report doesn't notify you?
But I have rental properties.
No,
so if
absolutely.
a guest needs something, if there's an issue, I have to respond quickly, or I get
negative reviews and it hurts you. Yeah, 100%.
So the whole, and we'll dive into this a little bit. I was listening to a podcast a few months ago that was talking about some of this stuff and said, what's the one change you could make in your life that would have the most dramatic effect, positive dramatic effect? And the guy said, charge your phone out of your bedroom at night, put it in another room and charge it at night. And I was sharing that with my wife and we said, I can't do that. I just can't do that. And then she's always much smarter and more introspective than I am. And she said, why couldn't you? What would be the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is our cabin's burned down or our kids are in the hospital and we don't find out until the morning. And
by the way, those are two very different things. I know in your heart, I don't want people to think like Tony views losing his cabin and his kid being in the hospital at the same level. Those
definitely
are
not the same level.
So they're both stressful moments.
Both stressful moments that need immediate attention if they happen, or you have a guest in one of your properties and a pipe burst, a toilet backed up and you need to get someone out there. And so I don't feel like it sounds great on paper. It sounds great listening to someone. It may work wonderful for you. And I wish that it would work for me. I just can't get myself to the place of saying this is something that needs to happen. Would it make a huge difference? I don't know, because it probably would.
I think it's interesting. Like my thing is always this. And so, mom's been gone. This summer will be 2 years and some things. And so like when mom was alive, it was always this thing of how do I, and the call about my mom came in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that like this is, so it is a prime example at, 2 a.m. the phone call happened. And so we were up, we were getting the boys up and then, and then they were like, hey, there's no need to come now. Let's just catch our breath. She's not here. And I think about that and I go, I would want that call if it was my mom.
Yeah.
I wanted that call. I would want that call. And so now the question goes, so, to go back to what Amanda asked you, like, why couldn't you? Well, I would say that's why. I mean, that is a legitimate reason why my kids, my spouse, honestly, when you do what I do in this season, like, and you shepherd and you lead, look, there are things that people, and you've experienced this and I've experienced this, that they will call about at 2 a.m. that you don't, they could have waited till 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. There's also people that their daughters have run away and they need somebody to kind of manage and help with some stuff. There's also people that like are really, we've both had people call and go, hey, I'm in a bad space in a hard way and I need some help, and they really needed help. And so I thought, like, do you get a landline? Do you get some?
I just read an article that lots of families are going back to that. They're going back to landlines.
I mean, and I don't know what this would be. Like, you could get a voice over internet processor phone, VoIP.
VoIP, yeah.
Yeah, you could get something like that you could run through your Wi-Fi. Now, I don't know if that still creates the same nasty rhythms that a tablet and phone and things would. But no, I think about this stuff, Tony, and I go, I don't know. I could do it way easier than you. I could absolutely, because I actually think some of your concerns are legitimate. Take family out, because you and I both, that's the thing we would both say is the non-negotiable. But you actually have legitimate concerns with some things. And so how could you establish that? I actually don't know, and I'm not smart enough.
But I even think for you, I remember back when I was in your role, and several times, not dozens and dozens, but there were several times that the phone call came at 1 a.m. that there was a car accident.
Yeah.
And at 1 a.m, I'm getting out of bed and heading to the ER to be with a family. And if I don't have my phone in my room, I'm missing that. And that's something that's very important for those people, that I'm there for them to be there. And I don't want to miss those moments. And maybe they're all excuses. Maybe it's justification for the bad habits that I have. But even I was processing through this in preparation for today and for this episode, that even back before cell phones, because that's always the thing, right? Well, this is the way that it was when we were kids. We didn't have cell phones in our room. No, we didn't, but we had landlines. And my parents had a landline in their bedroom. Mm-hmm. They had the spirally cord that came out of it. It wasn't even a wireless cord, and the dial that you had to do. I didn't have a phone in my room, but we had a phone. We had two. We had the phone in my parents' bedroom, and we had the one in our living room kitchen area. But that thing rang so loud that it didn't matter where you were in the house. If that goes off at 1 a.m, you're hearing it. It's waking the neighbors up. Half the neighborhood is hearing that. It's like, someone answer the phone at 3406. And so with cell phones now, if I have my phone in the kitchen and we're in our bedroom, I'm not hearing that thing go off. Now we could go all the way back.
At the volume of my mother-in-law, and then like I could hear it here right now, 30 minutes away.
So I do think that accessibility has been something that's been part of our culture for decades.
Yeah.
Now you go back to the 1800s, and if you had a family emergency, it took 6 days to get there by post. Different time, different place. That's not the world that we live in anymore.
It's definitely something that transitions, and every generation will look at the previous generation as we get older. And so as you and I age and there's younger people, they're going to go, younger people who've only known cell phones and computers are going to be like, what's the problem, Grandpa? And then people like you and I are going, and then typically the 80-year-olds you were talking about, I was in a coffee shop recently where I literally walked in, and here's two people, late 70s, maybe early 80s, both of them on a phone, just scrolling, sitting at a coffee shop and hanging out, opportunity to spend some time together. And I'm like, you could have done that at home over a cup of Folgers.
Yeah.
Like, why come out here and pay, $8 for 2 cups of coffee, 15 depending if they got fancy drinks.
The number of times that we'll be at a restaurant and you'll see people that are on a date, couples that are on a date, husband and wife, families that are out together, and they're not talking to each other. They're all on their phones while they're sitting there at the dinner table. That bothers me. Mm-hmm. And I don't think, Robert, here's the issue that I think all of this comes back to. It's not an issue with technology. It's an issue with presence.
Yeah. Again, redeemable. What's the redeemable things and what's the heart issue?
And so what would your kids, what would your wife say about your presence?
A mixed bag at best. I think at best it's a mixed bag. And I think there's moments where I get really, really good at it. And there's moments where I'm really, really struggling. And I don't have a great answer to that. And I'm trying to train myself to be more effective with the because it's a technology's not going to go away. How do I adjust to the place that I feel like the Father would want me to be at? You?
I would hope that they would say that I'm present. I would hope so. But if I'm honest, there are gaps. There are times when I'm physically there, but I'm not mentally there, as I talked about last week. And that hurts. So that's got to go away. We have a hot tub on our back porch, and love to get in the hot tub because phones can't get in the hot tub.
I still think about the State Farm commercial. Can I get a hot tub?
And a couple nights ago, my son and I got in the hot tub, and it was late when we got in. It was the night that we finished watching the game, and we said, is it too late to get into the hot tub? And we said, we'll just get in for a little while.
Like, it's never too late to get in the hot tub.
Never too late to get in the hot tub, but it was kind of late, and we were both tired. So we won't get in for long. We'll just get in for 15, 20 minutes. At 11:30, when the temperature of the hot tub, because we're back to frigid temperatures here, when the temperature had dropped from 104 to 99, that's how long we've been in, that the water temperature had dropped 5 degrees. We said, it's getting kind of cold out here. Maybe we go, and we looked, and we've been in the hot tub for an hour and a half. Just talking.
About your loss to the Celtics?
Oh, that was pitiful. Why did you have to do that, man? I was sitting here sharing a moment.
Because me and my boys were having a very good moment. We were having a very different moment at our house going, let's go Boston.
But those conversations don't happen when you're sitting on a couch with a phone. So let me ask you this. Are you okay with who your habits are forming you into?
So I don't know. I don't fully know how to answer this because I'm going to say no, but I don't know that we ever fully are. And what I mean by that is just the fact of that as we lean into the discipleship process and we start becoming more like Jesus in these spaces and moments, I think it's going to reveal something else. And so as we train in our lives to get disciplined in one area, I think it reveals another, or it reveals a deeper level of the thing we've been training in. So I'm going to say I don't love it. I think that's part of spiritual formation. So I'm not trying to give myself an out. I'm saying right now, I'm looking at some things specifically inside of the areas of technology that I would like to change. Yeah. You and I've talked. There's some things we won't dive into now. Maybe we do an episode about this down the road when I have my brain around it a little better. But you and I've talked. There's some things I'm processing through inside of technology and media and what I consume and how I consume it, that I'm asking some questions that I would consider to be heavy questions for me. And as I'm working through that, I don't know that it's a weight that everyone else needs to carry the same thing. And that's just, it's things that were kind of made aware to me recently. And so it's like, hey, I've been working and training really hard in this area. Now I'm more aware as I've gotten deeper into it. So what about you?
Yeah, I think that question hits hard and really causes you to stop and think and process. As I said before, I'm not a huge social media guy. I'm not doom scrolling Instagram for hours every day. Like I said, I'll check Bleacher Report, which maybe that counts, maybe it doesn't, but that's not really my issue. My issue is noise, as I was saying before, that I'd rather have a game on, I'd rather have a show on, a movie playing, something in the background. And if I'm being honest, I think that sometimes it's just simply a buffer. It's what it is. It's a safety net that if the conversation slows down, if the conversation gets awkward, if there's a lull, then that TV, that noise is going to fill that void. And sometimes even if we're still talking, even if we're still having a conversation, there's something about having it on, having it there that almost makes me feel less exposed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because when something's going, it does. We don't feel like it's not that we don't have to feel like we don't have to feel the silence.
Yeah.
So when something gets quiet,
and that's the thing that I've had to ask myself this question, and this is something that I am working on. So it's one of the main things that I'm trying to work on. And I've had to ask myself, why does silence feel so uncomfortable to me? Why do I try to fill every quiet moment? Because the truth is, I think the truth is that depth usually lives on the other side of that awkward silence. That if we can push through that, and if I always need background noise, if I always need some sort of distraction, something filling that space, I'm training myself to avoid the depth. I'm training myself to avoid the emotional connectivity that's going to come from that silence when you remove the distractions. So am I okay with who my habits are forming me into? Not if they're making me someone who can't sit still. Not if they're making me someone who avoids real connection, real conversation, because the silence feels awkward. And right now, the silence feels awkward. I'm trying to change that. I really am. But I'll tell you right now, it's very, very uncomfortable for me. My wife desperately needs connection. And so that's one of the things that we've been talking about for the last couple months is she needs time every single day for us to just sit down, sit on the couch, sit on our bed, look into each other's eyes and connect. And my reaction is to grab the remote and have the TV on. And so it's very uncomfortable for me, something we've been practicing, we've been trying to do for the last couple of months, of just sit there in silence except for each other. And it's hard. She's not going to like me saying that and hearing that when this plays back, but it's harder than it should be, which tells me something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we talk about, we want to say that things we've talked about before that, I heard the pastor one time say absolute power corrupts absolutely. And he said, you always hear that quote. He said, but really it's absolute power reveals absolutely. Like everything reveals. I mean, it really does. Our algorithms, we think our algorithms are shaping us, but our algorithms are revealing us.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing.
I like that.
Like things just reveal who we are. And that's why it's hard.
And the question isn't whether or not your phone is shaping you. It is. It is shaping you.
Absolutely is.
It's what's it shaping you into? What is it revealing about you?
Yeah. And so, that's really good. Hey, before we kind of close it out, you want to take a second and do some porch picks?
Let's do it.
All right, folks, pull up a rocking chair and grab yourself a glass of sweet tea. It's time for Porch Picks. This is where we give you our top recommendations on, well, just about anything. If we like it, we're picking it. No deep theology here, just good old-fashioned opinions. So sit back, relax, and get ready for this week's Porch Picks.
Well, you already spoiled mine, so...
I should have waited and spoiled it here. So you're watching Shrinking.
A
couple episodes in.
Yeah, I think two episodes.
Such a good show. I have not seen it all.
Really enjoyed it.
I have seen several episodes.
Yeah, it had me laugh out loud a couple of times, and yet also a couple of times where just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
So I here's what I love about that show. The two main characters that really drive it are is it Jason Segel,
I think.
Yeah, Seagal is Steven.
He's the
kung fu fighting guy. Mm-hmm. And so from kind of How I Met Your Mother fame, played Marshall on How I Met Your Mother, if you don't know. And he's done of course, he was in a Muppets movie and all kinds of other things.
Having a meat party.
Am I a Muppet? Am I a man? Isn't he the one that sings that?
Am I a Muppet?
Yeah,
that may be. Would that win an Oscar or a Tony? I don't know. It should have won something.
I don't know about all that, and so then Harrison Ford. And if you don't know who Harrison Ford is, I'm not even going to justify trying to explain to you who he is. But
how's your rock felt?
Good gracious. The fact that Harrison Ford, am I wrong? This is the first. I'm not saying he has not shown up on an episode of a TV show before Shrinking, but has he done an episodic show before?
I couldn't tell you.
I don't think he has. I mean, which is crazy to me that where we are in culture, and you talk about things shifting, you're seeing this a lot more. You're seeing high level, like movie stars.
Yeah, I just had this conversation with my wife the other day that the movie that you talked about that I really couldn't recommend to people because of the language and it was so bad. The one with Ben Affleck.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
The Rip. The
Rip. That's what it was. I couldn't remember the name of it.
That two A-list actors that their movie was straight to Netflix or whatever it's on, no theatrical release on that. Who would have ever thought that 20 years ago?
Yeah.
When you had straight to video movies, it was your D-list actors and movies.
Or sometimes an A-lister that just took a role and the movie didn't really do that well in the screening process or maybe they're later in their career. Like they talk about Keanu Reeves has had 3 very distinct careers. And sometimes in those breaks and gaps between The Matrix and John Wick, I mean, he would do kind of a stinker. And it just really wouldn't do very well.
You cannot forget one, which is one of my top 10 movies of all time, which would be Point Break.
Well, that was his first career.
I would say his first career was Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Kind of through that season. They had a stretch. He went kind of Bill and Ted up to Point Break, kind of in that. Then he had a gap of a few stinkers. Then he got The Matrix. And most people get one
Matrix
reboot.
Speed.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of get one reboot in life. And then he kind of tailed off again. And then he got John Wick. And so he's had 3 very unique careers.
I would say
almost.
4.
But I mean, it's
he's one of the greatest actors of
he's
all
fun.
time.
I love The Replacement so much. I probably shouldn't, but I do. Okay, so anyway, we're diving way too far on that. So you're watching Shrinking. Anything else?
Loving it. Loving Shrinking. Really good. Like I said, it came as a recommendation from my therapist. From my counselor that he said, I think that you should watch this with some of the things that we're talking through. and wrestling through.
Now
it.
everybody's going to be watching the show going, which one of these things is Tony thinking and working through?
Yeah.
You reading anything? Reading wise, I finally finished this 1,000-page book that I was reading with two guys that was an absolute bear to get through, but it was really good in the end. And we picked up two books. One is Nancy Pearcey's Total Truth. I don't know if you've ever read that or not. It's an incredible worldview, kind of shaping and thinking through worldview and what affects us and impacts us inside of what we consume and all these other things. And I read this book 20 years ago with one of the guys that I'm reading it with now, and there's a third guy in it now, and we're rereading it. And I'm just telling them, I'm like, man, there are things that I underlined, highlighted, exclamation pointed, wrote notes in the margin that 20 years ago I'm going, this is what's going to happen in over the next few years or 20 years. And I probably thought way longer than that. And now 20 years later, I'm going, oh my goodness, I think about where we were and where we are. So that's a fun read. And we're reading another one called Eternity in Their Hearts, which is just about how God works. Think about Paul and the tomb of the unknown, or the altar of the unknown God. I mean, and he told the story of, just by looking at some writers and people from those days, of how they got to those tombs, or those altars. I mean, I keep saying tomb, altars. And so it's been just how God works in ways to reveal himself to people, that when we are faithful and show up and do our part in this, that he's been working since the beginning of time to do. And so it's a really good book, and it's something that my almost 90-year-old mentor, it's the type of book he would hand me, and it challenges my heart and my spirit and really encourages me that what God's doing and how I can come alongside. Trying to think what we are watching. A lot of just really, we watch so much Olympics. We're kind of 2 days out, 3 days out from the end of the Olympics.
It's a little bit of a depression.
I find myself bummed. So Sunday at church, I got up and I've been doing this a little bit differently recently, and I just kind of say, "Hey, glad you're here."
Which you canceled for snow 2 weeks. I don't know why you guys didn't preempt church Sunday for what was taking place Sunday morning.
So my opening statement, as soon as the countdown video went off, was just, "Hey, glad you're here." The IOC does not check with me when they schedule gold medal games for the U.S. If the U.S. would have been there, none of us would have cared. But the U.S. is playing Canada men's hockey. We'd already won the women's hockey, and you, and one of the other coaches were standing around at a game that night going, "Did you what?" And we were all just talking about the goal and how great the women's team did. Really, in the exact same way, the men won this incredible overtime thriller and beating Canada, which our friends to the north, but I'm going, man, they're such a good hockey team, and we did it. But I just said, hey, I know you're not going to be paying attention to me. You're going to be watching the game, so do me a favor. Just tell me the score. Like, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down.
I almost did, because my son was texting me throughout. I wasn't watching it on my phone sitting on the second row, but my son was texting me.
So one of my boys was in the sound booth. And I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty sure he had his phone on. And you know what? I would have done the same thing when I was probably 16, 17, 18 years old. So
if I was in the sound booth, I would have had it on right now. So you can say 16, 17 at 46 years old. I would have had it on.
So yeah, we've just been watching a ton of sports. We're really super motivated to kind of dive into some hockey now, because that's
what happens.
We love our U.S. hockey team. We've been watching. We are so invested in golf. Like every weekend, we
YouTube golf.
No, real golf.
No, real golf.
Those guys are playing real golf as well.
My wife and I were at dinner last night. Tuesday night's our date night, and so we were at dinner last night. And the TV behind me at the restaurant, or behind her at the restaurant, that I could see was showing. It was ESPN was on, and they were showing golf, but it was all on a simulator.
Oh, TGL. We watched it for an hour and a half last night.
What are we coming to?
Oh, no. It's incredible. It's PGA. We watched it for 2 hours last night. We watched they had a double header. We watched the first game. We watched a movie.
I'm going to join that league, because I used to be really good at Wii Golf.
No, yeah, this is a way different thing. We watched part of the first one. Then we watched a movie. And when the movie went off, we picked up and watched the Duke Notre Dame game, which is an absolute blowout craziness. And
44, right?
yeah, it was the second worst home loss Notre Dame has ever had. The only other time was by like Chicago Fire Department back in it's like the 1800s. The last time they lost a game that bad. And then we started watching the second match. These are PGA golfers that they go in and they play, and it's not just like simulator. They actually have real grass. They have a green that is computerized, that it shifts and moves and changes all the breaks and stuff. Every hole, they have real sand
Is this
traps.
like Happy Gilmore 2?
No, it's way better than that. I mean, it's actually real stuff, but it's the TGL. Like Tiger has a team. And he plays. Rory has a team. Ricky Fowler has a team. I mean, like, it's incredible. And it's so, like, when you've only got like
So,
8
I mean, in
teams,
everything that we're talking about today and last week, this just pulls right in. So now we can't even go out and enjoy some sunshine and some real grass.
well,
And
no, they're hitting off real grass. So if you have grass allergies, you do not want to play TGL. But like, I think the thing is like they play in the winter. It's a few weeks. They're actually still playing though, and golf season started back, but it's still winter also. But there's about 8 teams. They get down. They have a tournament, a playoff. It's just a ton of fun to watch, and the courses are really different because they can make them all kinds of crazy. And so they actually have these huge hanging rocks that come out, and you've got to hit these low screamers underneath it. And it's
I'm definitely going to be the get off my lawn guy on this one. I'm not a fan.
We've not replaced real golf, like what I would call
Yet.
real golf, with
Yet.
it. Well, I can't control what happens in 50 years when they.
Because in 50 years, they'll be saying, we can do this with so much less space. It takes a 12 by 12 room instead of 20 acres to have a golf course.
Yeah. So anyway, so we've been watching a ton of sports. I'm trying to think TV show wise. I don't. Mel and I are watching. We were watching that new show, Best Medicine. We kind of picked up on that. It's been kind of interesting. I'm intrigued to see where it lands and goes. We were watching the new one with Patrick Dempsey, Mind of a Killer.
How is that?
Weird. And I'm having a, like, I think for us, we actually haven't watched an episode in a few weeks, and I don't think it's, but one, we were watching the Olympics, and two, basically, he's got early onset dementia, Alzheimer's, and we're
Can't Buy Me Love does? Or the actor does?
Yeah, no.
The actual
like
actor
in the show.
Okay.
And yeah, not Bruce Willis type stuff where they were having to put earpieces in and give him lines as his disease was coming on, but in the show,
Okay.
and
Gotcha.
and so he's a serial killer, or he's a hitman, hired man. He's a hitman, which I guess is technically
Spoiler alert again.
That's not a spoiler. That's like in the trailer, but he's losing his mind. And so it's these tensions of sometimes, and we're living that in our house.
Yeah.
And
that's tough.
and so inside of some family and some things that we're going through, and as people age, it's hard, and you deal with that. And so we've kind of, sorry, way to make that a downer, Robert. And so so those have been pretty fun shows, and there's a ton of other things, but anyway.
My wife was out of town for 6 days this past week, and so I actually watched 2 movies.
What did you watch?
I watched one that I would highly recommend and one that I would absolutely not. So I watched the biopic on Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, yeah. We haven't seen that yet.
It was not good. It was not good.
I've heard mixed reviews.
If you're a Boss fan, maybe you would like it.
Yeah, I think my house would like it. At least part of my house would.
I didn't love it. It wasn't very good.
Yeah, Landon's a huge Springsteen fan.
But then I watched one called Roof Man.
Oh, I've seen that.
Channing
Tatum.
I thought that was great.
Magic Mike fame.
Yeah, I was explaining it to my wife last night, and she said, "From Magic Mike." I was like, "I've never seen Magic Mike. You've never seen Magic Mike."
I've seen Magic Mike, but
that's not what I know him from.
Yeah,
so
I've seen enough previews of it back in the day, and people make fun of it all the time.
I thought that was really fun. I
It was
love
a fun
true
movie.
stories.
Yeah, Hollywood versions of true stories.
It
Yeah.
was one of those where he's, I guess, technically the bad guy, but you're rooting for him through the whole
time.
thing, and you're like, how can you be such an idiot? Do what you need to do, and it was great. And then I love when at the end they show the real life people and talk with that. And then you go, and if you're me, then I Google on my phone Google, all the real life stuff and spend another hour and a half, as much time as the runtime was of the movie, researching the real life
how
story
much of
it.
this is true or not true and things like that.
And it was very, very historically accurate. So I thought that one was fun.
So I've actually started reading paper books. I had somebody tell me, they're a little bit older than me. They asked me to tell me the other day, they said, man, we were sitting in a room together and I had a stack of like 5 books that I had brought with me because I was reading before they showed up. And, he's like, it just does my heart good to see you holding paper and not just everything's on a screen. And so in this, like, this isn't about rejecting technology. So kind of wrapping up today, it's like I love how you worded this statement. You don't need to reject technology. You need to reclaim intentionality. Kind of tell me what was going through your brain. Like, and we're not going to spend a ton of time here, but I'm not even going to respond to this, but tell me like what was going through your brain when you typed those words.
We need to be less interruptible. I think that's the big thing. That it's not about saying, I'm going to get rid of my phone. I'm going to sleep with it outside of the bedroom, even though I think for some people that could be a great idea. I think if you don't guard your attention, something else is going to take it over. Something else is going to capitalize on your attention. And so guard your attention. Be intentional with your presence, with your time. It's not about getting rid of your phone. Just don't be a slave to your phone, I guess. The strongest leaders are the most present leaders, is what I would say. And if you're not present with your people, if you're not present with your family, if you're not present with your friends, you're missing a whole lot of life.
So we ended last episode a little differently than we do. And if it's okay, I'd love to end this one just a little differently as well. You sent 5 questions, and typically we answer these, but I don't actually know that us giving our answers is the thing that helps anyone. So what I would love to do is this. I just love to read these 5 questions. And people can pause it, write them down. They can just process it. They're probably way smarter than me and don't have to write things down to remember them. But like, I'd just love for them to process it, and then we'll hit our outro music as soon as I read them, and then we'll just kind of end that way. So before I read them, is there anything else you would want to say before we head out of the show?
I would say if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe, hit that like button there, hit that subscribe button.
If you're not using technology, please use it more.
Join wherever you're listening to this show. If you haven't rated us, subscribed. I'll say, since we're going to end this a little differently, I'll say all the things we normally say in our outro. That like us, subscribe to us, and we would love to hear your thoughts on this. Join this conversation. You can find us a lot of different places.
I think that's the big thing, is like, this is design, like this, the desire is, I should say, is to be a dialogue, not just a sermon, but to be a dialogue. And we would really love to hear your thoughts on this. If you think we're crazy, tell us. If you think we're not going far enough, like in this, like, hey, you need to actually, like, you're not grumpy old men enough, which we've very rarely told that. We're typically way too grumpy for most people. But yeah, no, we would love to hear.
And share your answers to these questions.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Reach out to us on social media.
Yeah,
so,
go for it.
So here we go. What is one boundary you could set this week? What would it look like to replace your first scroll with prayer? Should phones live outside the bedroom? What is 1 hour you could protect daily? And how can leaders, whether as parents in homes, at a business, or in your mom's group or your golf club, model digital health? So with that, man, we just excited. We're excited for you, excited for everybody as we journey this, and take some time, process what you've got going on, because the goal is for all of us to get on the porch more and on the screens less. Thanks for listening. Love you, Tony. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk soon.